The ship called New Sol drifted toward the massive space station that hung in the void like a crystal flower made of metal and light. Inside the small human vessel, 12 people prepared for what would change everything in ways they could not imagine yet. Commander Jiho Park stood at the front window watching the alien station grow larger. His uniform was simple and clean, nothing fancy like the stories said other species wore. Behind him, engineer Minji Kim checked her tools one more time, while physicist Dongyun Lee read through files on his tablet. Medic Sohee Yoon organized. Her medical supplies and communications officer, Kyungmin Choi, tested the translation systems that would let them talk to the aliens. Navigator Hana Shin made sure their ship stayed on the right path, while security chief Woojin Kang quietly watched everything around them. Botanist Yeji Song looked at pictures of the dead planet they would soon call home, and geologist Hyun Woo Nam studied rock samples from similar worlds. Pilot Ji-young Oh kept the ship steady, while systems analyst Seok-jin Bai made sure all their computers worked properly. Cultural liaison. Ari Han practiced the alien greetings she had learned from the files Earth had sent with them. The Galactic Council had been very clear about what they wanted. Earth was new to the galaxy and needed to prove it could handle simple tasks before joining the big family of space-traveling species. The 12 humans would go to a dead planet called Cathara 7 and try to build a mining base. Most new species failed at this test within a few months. The Council expected humans would fail too. The docking process took an hour. Alien machines guided their ship into a bay designed for vessels 10 times larger than theirs. When the doors opened, the humans walked out into a world unlike anything they had ever seen. The air smelled different, and gravity felt lighter. Tall, crystalline beings called Velthari moved like living glass sculptures, while insect-like creks clicked and buzzed as they worked. Other species filled the station with colors and shapes that seemed impossible. Thex 9, a Velthari observer, greeted them with sounds their translators turned into words. The crystal being towered over the humans, but spoke in a voice like singing bells. "Welcome, Earth representatives. Your assignment awaits review." Jiho stepped forward and bowed slightly, a human gesture that somehow felt right even among aliens. "We are honored to serve the Council and prove our species worthy of membership." The meeting room was huge and filled with beings that could have stepped out of dreams or nightmares. Council members from dozens of species sat around a table that could have held 100 humans. Holographic displays showed the dead world of Kithara 7, a brown and gray sphere that looked like a giant rock floating in space. "This world was strip-mined centuries ago," explained a Krex military leader whose name translated as War Voice 7. "The atmosphere is thin, the soil is poisoned, and no useful minerals remain. Your task is to establish a self-sustaining base and begin extracting at least basic resources within 6 months." Dongyun studied the planetary data, while Hyunwoo examined the geological reports. Their faces showed no fear, only curiosity. Minji looked at the power requirements and nodded, as if the impossible numbers made perfect sense to her. "What equipment will be provided?" asked Jiho. "Standard colonial package," replied Thex 9. "Atmospheric processors, environmental suits, basic fabrication units, and enough supplies for 3 months. After that, you must sustain yourselves or request evacuation." The humans exchanged glances. Ari smiled and spoke in her role as cultural liaison. "We accept these terms gratefully. When may we begin?" The council members shared looks that their translators could not interpret. Most species spent months negotiating for better equipment or easier assignments. These humans seemed almost eager to tackle what was essentially a death sentence. 3 days later, the New Sol departed for Cathara 7 with its cargo holds full of standard colonial equipment. The journey took 2 weeks, during which the 12 humans studied every piece of data about their new home. They shared meals and talked about their plans, treating the impossible task ahead like a challenging puzzle rather than a threat to their lives. Cathara 7 looked even worse up close than in the pictures. The thin atmosphere glowed sickly yellow under the distant sun. Ancient mining scars covered the surface like wounds that had never healed. No water flowed anywhere, and nothing green grew in the poisoned soil. "Home sweet home," said Ji-young as she piloted their ship toward the surface. They landed near what used to be a mining complex, now just twisted metal and broken concrete. The atmospheric processors would need weeks to make the air breathable, even with the enhancement units. Most species would have set up their base inside sealed buildings and waited for the machines to do their work. Instead, Wu Jin and Yunwu put on basic breathing masks and walked outside to explore. The gravity was lighter than Earth normal, which meant they could carry heavier loads and work longer without getting tired. The poisoned soil would kill most alien plants, but Yeji looked at it and saw possibilities. The contamination is mostly heavy metals, she told the others over the radio. I can work with this. Minji and Dongyun found the remains of the old power systems, alien technology that looked impossibly advanced to human eyes, but they studied it like mechanics looking at a broken car engine. Within hours, they had identified salvageable components and begun sketching improvement plans. Their fusion containment is inefficient, Minji observed. We can do better with simpler materials. Seokjin connected their human computers to the alien systems and began translating between different technological languages. What should have taken weeks of careful programming took him 2 days of constant work. His human brain seemed to understand patterns that alien minds found mysterious. By the end of the first week, they had accomplished what the Council expected would take a month. Their atmospheric processors worked better than the specifications promised. Their living quarters were not just functional, but comfortable. Most importantly, they had begun producing power at levels that made Thex 9 check his instruments 3 times. The Council observer watched from orbit as impossible readings streamed back to his ship. The humans were not just surviving on the dead world. They were thriving. Their energy output exceeded anything in his database. Their resource extraction had already begun, weeks ahead of schedule. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be improving the alien equipment they had been given. Thex 9 to Council Command, he transmitted. The humans have established base operations and are requesting additional raw materials. Their efficiency ratings are unusual. On the planet below, the 12 humans continued their work. Kyungmin had established communication links with trading posts in 3 neighboring systems. Hana had mapped resource deposits that alien scanners had missed. So he had set up medical facilities that could treat not just humans, but potentially any carbon-based species. They worked 18 hours, each day without complaint, rotating tasks and sharing knowledge in ways that multiplied their individual capabilities. When Yeji needed help with soil processing, Hyunwoo provided geological expertise while Dongyun contributed chemical analysis. When Minji designed new power systems, Seokjin programmed the control systems while Woojin handled the construction. At night they shared meals and stories, treating their exile on a dead world like an adventure rather than a punishment. They sang songs from Earth and taught each other skills that had nothing to do with mining or survival. They were building more than a base. They were creating a community. After 1 month, Jiho sent his first official report to the Council. It was polite and humble, requesting some additional basic materials and reporting adequate progress toward established goals. He did not mention that they had already exceeded every benchmark the Council had set for the 6-month mark. The A report reached the Council chambers 3 days later, along with Thex 9's detailed observations. The crystalline being stood before the assembled representatives and delivered news that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The humans are not failing, he announced. They are succeeding beyond all theoretical parameters. I recommend immediate reassessment of their species' capabilities. In the vast chamber, representatives from dozens of species fell silent as they realized they might have made a terrible mistake. They had expected to observe the failure of another primitive species. Instead, they were witnessing the emergence of something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that thrived where others merely survived. 3 months had passed since the 12 humans landed on Cathara 7, and the dead world was no longer dead. Where ancient mining scars had marked the surface like wounds, green patches now grew in carefully tended plots. The thin atmosphere hummed, with the sound of machinery that worked better than its designers had ever imagined possible. Minji Kim stood inside the power plant she had built from salvaged alien technology and human ingenuity. Around her, 12 fusion reactors provided energy to not just the human base but to the Council observation station orbiting overhead. The alien engineers who had designed the original systems insisted her improvements were theoretically impossible, yet the power readings did not lie. The containment field should collapse under those parameters, Thex-9 had told her during his last visit to the surface. The crystalline observer still checked his instruments multiple times whenever he recorded their power output. Minji had smiled politely and explained her modifications, using simple words the translator could handle. We made it more stable by making it simpler. Sometimes the easy way works better than the hard way. She did not mention that human fusion technology had been developed under completely different assumptions than alien methods. Where other species had focused on perfect theoretical efficiency, humans had learned to build systems that worked reliably under terrible conditions. The result was technology that looked primitive, but performed beyond alien comprehension. Across the base, Dong-Hyun Lee worked with Seokjin Bae to reverse engineer a broken Krex mining drone they had found in the ruins. The insect-like species had spent centuries perfecting the design, creating a machine that could extract minerals with acceptable efficiency under controlled conditions. Look at this. Dong-Hyun pointed to a component that took up nearly half the drone's interior space. They built a computer system to handle every possible variable. We could replace all of this with a simple feedback loop. Seokjin nodded as he connected their human computers to the alien systems. His programs did not try to account for every possibility like alien software did. Instead, they learned and adapted in real time, the way human minds worked when faced with new problems. Within 2 days, they had rebuilt the mining drone with double the efficiency and half the resource cost. The new design could work in environments that would destroy the original, and it needed almost no maintenance. When they tested it, the machine extracted minerals from supposedly barren rock that alien scanners had declared worthless. Yeji Song walked through gardens that should not have existed on a poisoned world. Her plants grew in soil that would kill most alien species, but she had not tried to make the soil perfect. Instead, she had found plants that could thrive in imperfect conditions and help heal the world around them. Earth plants are very stubborn, she explained to a visiting Velthari botanist who had come to study her methods. They grow where other things cannot grow, and they make the soil better for the plants that come after them. The alien scientist studied her data with growing amazement. Yeji had not just created a garden, she had begun an ecosystem. Her plants produced oxygen and processed waste while providing food for both humans and the alien observation teams. More importantly, they were slowly healing the poisoned soil, turning a dead world into something that could support life again. This contradicts established xenobotany principles, the Velthari scientist noted. Biological systems cannot function efficiently in contaminated environments. Maybe they cannot, Yeji replied. But these plants do not know that, so they grow anyway. Kyungmin Choi had established communication networks that connected their base to trading posts in 12 different systems. His equipment was simpler than standard alien systems, but somehow provided clearer signals across greater distances. Merchant ships that had never traded with each other now exchanged goods and information through networks he had built from spare parts. The humans have increased our trading efficiency by 300%, reported a Krex merchant captain to his homeworld. Their communication protocols require no special equipment, yet provide better service than systems costing 1,000 times more. Hanashin and Ji-Young-Oh had mapped not just Cathara 7 but 17 other worlds in nearby systems. Their small ship could travel farther and faster than vessels 10 times its size because they had learned to work with space rather than fighting against it. While alien ships required massive engines to force their way between stars, human ships danced with gravity and solar winds like leaves on the wind. They used stellar mechanics we dismissed as impractical, observed a council navigation expert. Their fuel consumption is impossibly low, yet they achieve superior travel times. The secret was not advanced technology, but human adaptability. Where alien species had developed rigid systems that worked perfectly under specific conditions, humans built flexible systems that worked adequately under any conditions. The result was technology that seemed primitive, but functioned better than advanced alien systems in the real universe, where nothing was ever perfect. Wu Jin Kang had begun upgrading the base defenses, though he called it routine maintenance in his reports. His modifications used mostly salvaged materials and simple human engineering principles, but they transformed basic defensive systems into something that made visiting alien military observers very nervous. Their weapons should not be effective against modern shielding, noted a Krex security specialist. Yet simulation models suggest they would penetrate our best defensive systems with ease. Wu Jin had studied alien military technology and found it focused on complex solutions to simple problems. Their shields could stop sophisticated attacks, but failed against basic kinetic weapons traveling at the right angle and velocity. Their sensors could detect advanced stealth systems but missed simple objects that did not try to hide, just moved in unexpected ways. Human military doctrine appears based on fundamental unpredictability, the specialist reported to his superiors. They do not fight the way they should fight, which makes them dangerous to opponents who expect logical tactical behavior. Hyun-woo. Nam had discovered that Kithara 7 contained vast deposits of rare elements that alien geological surveys had completely missed. His human eyes saw patterns in rock formations that alien instruments ignored. His simple tools found resources that sophisticated scanners declared did not exist. The planet contains enough strategic minerals to supply the entire sector, he reported to Jiho during their weekly planning meeting. The previous surveys looked for what they expected to find instead of what was actually there. This was becoming a pattern with human operations, where alien specialists looked for perfect examples of what their training had taught them to recognize. Humans looked for anything useful and found ways to make it work. The result was that they discovered resources and possibilities that more advanced species had overlooked for centuries. So Yoon had established medical facilities that could treat not just humans, but any carbon-based species in the galaxy. Her techniques were simpler than standard alien medicine, but somehow more effective. Visiting crews who came to the base for routine checkups left feeling better than they had in years. Human medical protocols focus on supporting natural healing processes rather than replacing them, she explained to a team of alien medical researchers. We help the body fix itself instead of trying to fix the body ourselves. Her approach confused alien doctors who were trained to treat specific symptoms with specific procedures. So he treated the whole patient and let their natural systems handle the details. The results spoke for themselves when crew members from 3 different species reported complete recovery from chronic conditions that alien medicine had declared incurable. Ari Han had become the most popular ambassador in local space. Her cultural exchanges brought together species that had barely communicated for centuries. She organized trade festivals and scientific conferences that made everyone involved more successful than they had been working alone. The humans understand cooperation in ways we had forgotten, admitted a Velthari philosopher who attended one of her cultural exchange events. They do not compete to be the best at everything. They cooperate to make everything better. This was perhaps the most unsettling aspect of human behavior for other galactic species. Most civilizations had developed competitive social structures where individuals and groups struggled for dominance. Humans seemed to instinctively understand that making everyone more successful was more profitable than defeating everyone else. By the end of the 3rd month, the 12 humans operated 24 separate facilities across 3 star systems. Their mining output supplied raw materials to 12 different worlds. Their communication networks connected previously isolated trading posts. Their medical facilities treated patients from dozens of species. Their agricultural techniques were being studied by xenobotanists across the galaxy. Jiho Park filed his quarterly report with characteristic human modesty. Operations proceeding within acceptable parameters, requesting additional basic materials for expanded operations. Current resource extraction exceeds minimum requirements by approximately 500%. He did not mention that they had transformed 3 dead worlds into productive colonies. 6 months after 12 humans had arrived at what was supposed to be their failure, the Galactic Council faced a problem they had never encountered before. The species they had expected to struggle with basic survival was threatening to outproduce their entire civilization. Something had to be done before the humans made the rest of the galaxy look incompetent. In the great crystal chambers of Vorthak Prime, Council leader Zenth Kalar called an emergency session. Representatives from 47 species gathered around the massive table where decisions affecting trillions of beings were made. The subject of their discussion was 12 humans on a dead world who had somehow become the most successful colonial. Operation in galactic history. The human efficiency ratios defy every model we possess, reported Chief Analyst Vex 9, his crystalline form flickering with nervous energy. Their resource extraction exceeds our best colonies by factors we cannot explain. Their technological adaptation surpasses species with millions of years of development. War Chief Korth of the Krex Empire clicked his mandibles in agitation. They are hiding their true capabilities. No species achieves such results with primitive technology. They must be tested more rigorously. The assembled representatives murmured agreement. It was easier to believe the humans were lying about their technological level than to accept that they were simply better at everything than civilizations that had existed since before Earth's sun was born. Proposal accepted, announced Zenth Kalar. The humans will be assigned expanded operations to reveal their true capabilities. If they succeed, we will know they possess hidden technology. If they fail, we will know their limitations. The vote was unanimous. Every species in the council agreed that the humans needed to be tested properly. They designed a challenge that would force the Earth colonists to either reveal advanced technology or fail completely. It seemed like perfect logic to beings who had never encountered humans before. 3 days later, Jiho Park received an official communication from the council. The message was delivered by Thex 9, who had been observing human operations with growing concern for months. The crystalline being's form seemed dimmer than usual as he delivered the council's decision. Commander Park, the council has declared Kythera 7 and surrounding systems a strategic resource zone, Thex 9 announced. As the designated colonial authority, your people must increase mineral output by 300% within 60 days to prove human viability for full council membership. Jiho listened to the translation with the same calm expression he wore during routine briefings. Around him, his 11 companions showed no signs of panic or despair. Instead, they seemed to be calculating possibilities and solutions. Thank you for this opportunity, Jiho replied politely. We will need to expand our operational parameters slightly. May we request access to additional systems for resource development? Thex9's form flickered with surprise. Most species would have protested the impossible deadline or negotiated for reduced targets. These humans seemed to view the challenge as merely an interesting logistics problem. Additional systems may be designated if you demonstrate preliminary capability, the observer replied. What are your immediate requirements? Nothing special, said Minji Kim, speaking for the first time during the meeting. Just access to 17 star systems we have already surveyed and permission to establish temporary facilities. The casual way she mentioned 17 systems made Thex 9 check his records. Human operations had somehow expanded far beyond their original assignment, without anyone noticing. While the council debated how to test them, the humans had been quietly mapping and analyzing dozens of worlds. Within hours of receiving the council's challenge, the 12 humans had transformed into something that resembled a military operation. Ji-Young-Oh and Hana Shin began launching survey missions to systems they had already identified as promising. Hyunwoo Nam and Seokjin Bae coordinated geological analysis across multiple worlds simultaneously. Woo Jin-Kang organized security for rapid expansion, while So Hee-Yoon prepared medical facilities for workers who did not yet exist. We are going to need help, Jiho announced during their evening planning session. 12 people cannot operate across 17 systems, even with our current efficiency levels. This was the moment that revealed how thoroughly the council had misunderstood human nature. Where other species would have requested assistance from their homeworld or negotiated for extended deadlines, the humans simply began recruiting help from the species around them. Arihan visited every trading post, research station, and mining facility within 10 light years. Her cultural exchange programs had made humans popular throughout the sector, and she leveraged that goodwill into something unprecedented in galactic history. We need workers for expanded operations, she explained to station commanders and merchant captains. We can offer medical care, improved equipment, better food, and profit sharing for anyone willing to help with short-term contracts. The response overwhelmed her. Alien workers who had spent careers in dangerous conditions fighting obsolete equipment suddenly had the chance to work with humans who made everything easier and safer. Within days, volunteer crews from 6 different species were traveling to human facilities. Yeji Song found herself training Velthari crystal farmers in earth botanical techniques that worked better than anything their species had developed in. millions of years. Krex mining specialists learned from Hyunwoo Nam how to find resources in supposedly barren worlds. Even the proud and independent Zephyrian traders began asking Kyungmin Choi to upgrade their communication systems. The humans did not just accept help. They made everyone who helped them better at their jobs. Alien workers who joined human operations found their productivity increasing, their equipment lasting longer, and their techniques improving in ways they could not explain. The humans teach by example rather than instruction, reported a Krex, foreman who had joined their mining operations. They show us how to work with our environment instead of fighting against it. Everything becomes easier when you stop trying to force solutions and start looking for natural ones. Minji Kim began teaching alien engineers the principles behind human fusion reactor design. Her students were shocked to discover that human technology was not more advanced than theirs. It was more fundamental. Where alien systems used complex solutions to handle every possible variable, human systems used simple solutions that adapted automatically to changing conditions. Your containment fields use force to control plasma behavior, she explained to a team of Velthari physicists. Our containment fields use geometry to guide plasma behavior. Force requires constant energy input. Geometry requires only initial setup. The result was fusion reactors that could be built quickly from basic materials and operated reliably under conditions that would destroy more sophisticated systems. Within weeks, human-designed reactors were providing power to facilities across 3-star systems. Donghyun Lee made an even more disturbing discovery when he began working with alien computer specialists. Human programming approaches produced software that learned and adapted like biological systems, while alien programming produced software that followed predetermined rules perfectly. Your programs are like tools, he told a group of Krex programmers. They do exactly what you tell them to do, nothing more and nothing less. Our programs are like partners. They help us solve problems we did not know we had. The implications terrified alien computer scientists who had spent centuries developing increasingly complex systems to handle every possible situation. Human software started simple and became complex through experience, while alien software started complex and became useless when faced with unexpected situations. By the 30th day of the Council's 60-day challenge, human operations spanned 12 star systems and employed workers from 15 different species. Their mining output had increased by 400%, exceeding the Council's demands by a factor that made their analysts check their calculations repeatedly. More disturbing than their productivity was their effect on everyone around them. Alien workers in human facilities reported higher job satisfaction, better health, and increased technical competence. Trade routes that passed through human space became more efficient and profitable. Even the wildlife on worlds where humans operated seemed healthier and more abundant. They are not conquering territory, observed Council Military Advisor Kresh 7. They are improving it. Every system they enter becomes more productive, more stable, and more prosperous than it was before. This was perhaps the most alarming aspect of human expansion for the Council representatives. Most species expanded by taking resources from others or controlling strategic locations. Humans expanded by making everything around them work better, creating wealth and prosperity that benefited everyone involved. Thex9 filed daily reports that painted a picture of transformation across an entire sector of space. Human operations have increased overall regional productivity by 600%. Interspecies cooperation has reached levels unprecedented in galactic history. Medical facilities provide care superior to Council standards. Agricultural output exceeds consumption by margins that allow food export to previously undernourished worlds. 1 year after 12 humans had landed on a dead world to prove themselves worthy of galactic civilization, the galaxy was beginning to understand what it had unleashed. 60 fusion reactors hummed across 15 star systems, providing clean energy to colonies that had struggled with power shortages for centuries. The implications of this success kept alien leaders awake during their sleep cycles, staring at data that rewrote everything they thought they knew about the universe. In the deep archives beneath Vorthak Prime, Council historians searched through millions of years of records looking for any species that had shown similar capabilities. They found nothing. No civilization in galactic history had demonstrated the combination of adaptability, efficiency, and cooperative instinct that humans displayed as naturally as breathing. Dr. Sohee Yoon stood in her medical facility on Kythera 7, reviewing biological scans that painted a picture more disturbing than any military threat the galaxy had ever faced. Her patients included representatives from 12 different species, all showing improvements in health and longevity that should have been impossible with their natural biology. The human healing techniques stimulate regenerative processes we did not know our species possessed, reported a Velthari medical researcher who had been studying her methods for months. They are not using advanced technology. They are using biological principles we never discovered. Sohee smiled as she organized data that would revolutionize medicine across the galaxy. Her techniques were based on simple Earth medical knowledge that treated the body as an integrated system, rather than a collection of separate parts. What worked for humans seemed to work even better for alien species, whose biology had evolved different solutions to the same basic problems. Most galactic medicine treats symptoms, she explained to the visiting researcher. We treat causes. When you fix what is wrong at the root level, everything else gets better automatically. The implications terrified alien medical establishments that had built entire civilizations around managing chronic conditions rather than curing them. Human medical techniques made most alien medical technology obsolete, not by being more advanced, but by being more effective. Meanwhile, Dong-Yun Lee was teaching physics to alien scientists who had spent lifetimes studying the fundamental forces of the universe. His lessons revealed that human mathematics contained concepts that challenged millions of years of alien scientific development. Your equations assume the universe behaves predictably, he told a gathering of the galaxy's most brilliant physicists. Our equations assume the universe behaves creatively. When you expect creativity, you find solutions that predictable thinking cannot imagine. This difference in approach explained why human technology consistently outperformed alien systems despite using simpler components. Human engineers designed systems that adapted to unexpected conditions, while alien engineers designed systems that controlled expected conditions. In a universe where nothing ever went exactly according to plan, adaptive systems worked better than controlling systems. Seokjin Bai had connected 60 human facilities with a communication network that spanned 20 star systems. His achievement would have been impressive enough if he had used advanced alien technology, but detailed analysis revealed that his network was built entirely from basic components that any species could manufacture. The humans have created quantum communication networks using classical physics principles, reported a Krex computer specialist to his superiors. Their networks are faster, more reliable, and cheaper than our most advanced systems, yet they use technology we consider obsolete. The secret was not in the components, but in how they were connected. Human network design mimicked biological neural networks that learned and grew organically, while alien networks followed rigid hierarchical structures that became less efficient as they expanded. The result was communication systems that got better the larger they became, contrary to everything alien computer science taught about network limitations. Kyungmin Choi had established trade relationships that were transforming the economic structure of local space. Merchant fleets that had operated independently for centuries were now coordinating through human communication networks, sharing resources and information in ways that made everyone more profitable. The humans do not compete in trade, observed a Zephyrian merchant captain whose profits had increased by 300% since joining human trading networks. They collaborate in trade. They make the market bigger instead of trying to control the market. This approach violated every principle of alien economics, which was based on scarcity and competition. Human economics seemed to be based on abundance and cooperation, creating wealth by making everyone more successful rather than by taking wealth from competitors. War Chief Korth of the Krex Empire studied military reports that made his exoskeleton itch with nervous energy. Human defensive installations used principles that rendered most alien weapons ineffective, not through superior shielding, but through superior positioning and design. Their defenses do not stop our weapons, he reported to the Empire's high command. They make our weapons irrelevant. Their bases are positioned so that attacking them would require more resources than could be gained by conquest. Wu Jin Kang had designed defensive systems based on human military philosophy that focused on making conflict unprofitable rather than making conflict impossible. His installations could defend themselves effectively, but more importantly, they provided so much benefit to surrounding systems that attacking them would damage the attacker's own interests. Human military doctrine treats war as a failure of economics rather than an extension of politics, Korth observed. They make themselves too valuable to attack rather than too dangerous to attack. This approach confused alien military leaders, who were trained to think in terms of strength and weakness. Human defenses were based on mutual benefit and shared prosperity, concepts that had no place in traditional military thinking, but proved remarkably effective at preventing conflict. Yeji Song had transformed 7 dead worlds into garden paradises. That produced food for 40 different colonies. Her agricultural techniques were being studied by xenobotanists from across the galaxy, all trying to understand how human plants could thrive in environments that killed native species. Earth biology is optimized for survival under extreme conditions, she explained to a delegation of agricultural specialists. Our plants do not need perfect environments. They create perfect environments. Her gardens were not just producing food. They were healing poisoned worlds, restoring dead ecosystems, and creating biodiversity where none had existed for centuries. Alien scientists watched in amazement as human agricultural techniques turned barren planets into fertile worlds in months rather than millennia. Hanashin and Jiyoung-Oh had mapped stellar navigation routes that reduced travel times throughout the sector by an average of 40%. Their techniques required no special technology, just a better understanding of how to work with gravitational fields and stellar phenomena instead of fighting against them. The humans navigate space like they were born to it, reported a Velthari astrogation specialist. They use stellar mechanics we considered too complex for practical application, yet they make it look simple. Human navigation was based on intuitive understanding of orbital mechanics combined with willingness to accept routes that looked dangerous to more cautious species. The result was faster travel using less fuel, opening up trade routes that had been considered impractical for centuries, but it was the cumulative effect of all these achievements that truly disturbed the galactic community. 12 humans had not just succeeded at their assigned task, they had revolutionized everything they touched. More troubling still, they seemed to be holding back rather than showing off their full capabilities. Analysis of human communication patterns suggests they consider their current achievements routine rather than exceptional, reported Council xenopsychologist Menth 5. They discuss their accomplishments with the same emotional resonance other species use for basic maintenance tasks. This casual attitude toward achievements that amazed the galaxy suggested that humans were operating well below their actual capabilities. If building 60 fusion reactors and transforming 15 star systems was routine for 12 humans, what could they accomplish when they really tried? Deep in the Council archives, military analysts ran simulation after simulation, trying to model human expansion patterns. Every scenario they tested showed the same disturbing result. Human influence would spread throughout the galaxy not through conquest, but through simple superiority at every task they attempted. Projection models indicate complete human dominance of galactic civilization within 2 centuries, reported Chief Military Analyst Kresh 7. Not through war or conquest, but through economic and technological advantages that make resistance pointless. The humans were not trying to take over the galaxy. They were simply better at everything than the species that already lived there. Their presence made everyone around them more successful, but it also made them dependent on human assistance for maintaining their new levels of prosperity. Council leader Zenth Kalar convened emergency sessions with representatives from species throughout the galaxy. The truth about humanity emerged not through dramatic revelation, but through countless small conversations between Ari Han and the alien species she had befriended during her cultural exchange programs. Over shared meals and quiet discussions, the galaxy began to understand why 12 humans had accomplished what entire civilizations could not achieve in millennia. "Tell me about Earth," requested Vex 9, the Velthari analyst whose crystalline form flickered with curiosity, rather than the nervous energy that had characterized his earlier reports. He sat in Ari's garden on Cathara 7, surrounded by plants that grew in soil that should have killed them. Ari smiled and began describing a world that sounded like a nightmare to beings who had evolved on stable, peaceful planets. Earth has ice. Ages that last thousands of years, followed by warming periods that melt continents. Volcanoes that block out the sun for decades. Storms that level entire forests. Earthquakes that reshape coastlines overnight. The alien listeners grew quiet as she continued. Our ancestors survived all of this with nothing but stone tools and fire. When the climate changed, they moved. When the food ran out, they found new food. When predators threatened them, they became better predators. Earth taught us that the universe does not care if we survive, so we learned to care for ourselves. This was the key that unlocked the mystery of human capabilities. While other species had evolved on worlds that rewarded specialization and careful adaptation to stable environments, humans had evolved on a world that rewarded flexibility and rapid adaptation to constantly changing conditions. Earth had produced a species optimized for survival under impossible circumstances. Most galactic species developed civilization through cooperation and resource management, explained Dong-Yun Lee to a gathering of physicists from 12 different worlds. We developed civilization through problem-solving and adaptation. When we encountered a problem we could not solve. We changed ourselves until we could solve it. This difference in evolutionary pressure explained everything about human behavior that confused alien observers. Where other species had learned to avoid problems through careful planning and risk management, humans had learned to solve problems through creativity and persistence. The result was a species that treated challenges as opportunities rather than threats. The revelation came at the worst possible time for galactic security. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching from the Andromedan galaxy, ships belonging to the hegemony that had been expanding across dark space for millennia. Their arrival had been predicted by council strategists, but not for another century. Something had accelerated their timeline. The Andromedan hegemony represents a Type 7 aggressive civilization, reported War Chief Korth to an emergency council session. Their technology level exceeds ours by significant margins. Their fleet strength indicates preparation for complete galactic conquest. Estimated time until first contact, 14 standard days. The assembled representatives fell into the kind of panic that had characterized galactic responses to existential threats for millions of years. Emergency military protocols were activated. Defense fleets were mobilized. Evacuation plans were updated. All the traditional responses that had failed against Type 7 aggressors throughout galactic history. On Cathara 7, the 12 humans received news of the approaching threat with the same calm attention they applied to routine maintenance reports. Jiho Park gathered his team for what alien observers expected would be desperate planning for evacuation or defense. The Andromedan ships use quantum displacement drives and neutronium hull plating, reported Jiyoung-Oh after reviewing the intelligence data. Standard council weapons will be ineffective against their defenses. Their shields operate on rotating frequency modulation that adapts to incoming energy signatures, added Wu Jin Kang. Conventional military doctrine would require weapons systems we do not possess. The alien observers prepared to witness human despair as the reality of facing superior technology sank in. Instead, they watched 12 humans treat an unstoppable galactic invasion force as an interesting engineering challenge. We have 2 weeks to prepare a demonstration, said Jiho calmly. Recommendations for approach? What followed was the most terrifying planning session in galactic history, not because of its desperation, but because of its confidence. The humans discussed the approaching fleet the way they might discuss a broken piece of equipment that needed repair. Their technology assumes opponents will use similar technology, observed Minji Kim. Quantum displacement drives are vulnerable to gravitational manipulation if you approach the problem correctly. Neutronium plating provides excellent protection against energy weapons, but becomes brittle under specific resonance frequencies, noted Seokjin Bae. The same frequencies our fusion reactors generate as harmonic byproducts. Their adaptive shielding will adjust to any energy signature we use repeatedly, added Dong-Yun Lee, but it cannot adapt to signatures that change faster than their processing cycles. Within hours, the 12 humans had identified weaknesses in Andromedan technology that Council military analysts had missed despite decades of study. More disturbing, still, they began designing countermeasures using materials and techniques already available in their existing facilities. We are going to need all 60 reactors operating at maximum output, announced Minji. and we will need to modify their harmonic frequencies to match Andromedan shield vulnerabilities. The gravitational lensing array can be completed using our existing communication satellites, reported Hana. We just need to adjust their positioning and power output. Kinetic projectiles can be manufactured from asteroid material using our mining drones, said Hyunwoo. Simple iron slugs will penetrate neutronium plating if they impact at the correct velocity and angle. The alien observers listened to human planning with growing amazement and horror. These 12 people were designing weapons systems that could defeat a galactic invasion force using nothing but the industrial infrastructure they had built for mining operations. They are not designing new technology, reported Thex-9 to the Council. They are repurposing existing technology for military applications. Their mining equipment becomes artillery. Their power plants become beam weapons. Their communication networks become targeting systems. This was the moment when the galaxy truly understood what humanity represented. Other species had developed military technology and civilian technology as separate systems. Humans had developed technology that could serve any purpose depending on how it was used. Their tools were not specialized. They were adaptable. When the Andromedan fleet arrived at the edge of human space, they expected to encounter the same kind of resistance they had faced throughout their conquest of distant galaxies. Defensive fleets using conventional tactics. Planetary shields that could be overwhelmed through superior firepower. Civilizations that fought according to predictable military doctrines. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented in their millions of years of expansion. 60 fusion reactors scattered across 15 star systems suddenly changed their output frequencies, creating a harmonic resonance that made Andromedan shields fluctuate unpredictably. Communication satellites realigned themselves into a gravitational lens array that focused stellar radiation into beams powerful enough to cut through neutronium hulls. Most disturbing of all, the humans did not engage in space combat according to any recognizable doctrine. They used mining drones to launch asteroid fragments at velocities that turned simple rock into armor-piercing projectiles. They used agricultural satellites to spread metallic chaff that disrupted Andromedan sensors. They used medical facilities to broadcast electromagnetic frequencies that interfered with Andromedan computer systems. The humans are not fighting us, reported Andromedan Fleet Commander Zex Prime to his superiors. They are solving us like a technical problem. Our weapons are ineffective not because their defenses are stronger, but because their defenses make our weapons irrelevant. The battle lasted exactly 47 minutes. When it ended, the Andromedan invasion fleet had been completely neutralized, without the loss of a single human life or the destruction of a single human facility. More importantly, the humans had accomplished this victory using equipment originally designed for civilian purposes. Jiho Park's after-action report was characteristically modest. Andromedan technology appears optimized for combat against conventional military systems. Alternative approaches proved effective. No significant damage to our facilities. Recommending diplomatic contact to discuss peaceful coexistence. He did not mention that 12 humans had just defeated a military force that could have conquered the entire galaxy. He did not describe how human industrial technology had been weaponized so effectively that the concept of military versus civilian technology had become meaningless. He certainly did not explain that humanity had just demonstrated capabilities that made every other species in the galaxy obsolete for anything more challenging than basic survival. The aftermath of the Andromedan defeat sent shock waves through galactic civilization that continued for months. Military strategists realized that human defensive capabilities made traditional warfare impossible.